Because it has a little thing on there real quick.
Okay, we're gonna start and then we'll bring you guys on like after like we do quick introduction. Okay. Oh, she did tell we can hear you on camera. We were talking about the kids and the fairness.
It's never going to be fair. Edit privacy, public. I'm gonna throw that dog a trizzy. Oh, I haven't got my phone set up. Talk to the Barretts today. We are talking to the Barretts.
Ready?
No. Hold on just a second. Football is about to come on. I'm not even going to put it on.
All right, I'm starting. All right. Hi, everyone.
What's going on?
I'm Angela.
And I'm Ron.
And we are Chatter of Opinion. Thank you for joining us today on this fine Thursday.
Yes.
So our topic today is about support during grief. That can be a variety of things and ways due to a variety of circumstances, but it's always going to look different based on the circumstance and who is grieving or the support of that griever.
Yes, that is correct. We all go through some things, but your supporting cast that is around you could either help or hurt you depending on what you are going through. So today is a topic that we've been discussing for a minute behind the scenes, and we want to bring it to the forefront to see if you guys have been through a situation where you needed someone when you were grieving or you were supporting someone that was grieving.
Correct. And also too, not only just grieving, but like going through something traumatic, like someone who's deathly ill and eventually passes. So those type of things, just support in general.
All right. So today we have some guests, some guests that we will bring on for this topic, I think.
Oh, man.
Oh, righty. You got to get over a little bit, Crystal. There you go.
Oh, wait, cut us off too.
I don't know if I should take my glasses.
How are y'all today?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
All right. So we've recently had to navigate the whole grief and support thing. So that's why we asked you guys to be included in this podcast today.
You got to come over.
Still? Good? Okay.
All right.
Good? All right. So first of all, how did you feel when I first asked you to be on this podcast? Were you nervous?
Not me, because this is my second time.
That's right, Patty P. Joined me the first time.
I guess
That's
I meant more about the topic than on camera.
Yeah, he's like,
Pat's all, I got this.
Yeah. I was telling her.
I've been around the block.
I mean, yeah, a little bit, I guess. It's uncomfortable, situations and stuff.
It can be, right? Being vulnerable to talk about what you need or didn't communicate or, anything like that. So, all right. So I think I'm going to start with the griever and just put out a few things and you guys can like chime in or maybe give me like your take on it, and then we'll go to like the support.
Right. So for those that are just now joining us, we are talking about support for an individual that's either gone through or going through some troubling times when it comes to either,
A
you know,
sick
a
loved
medical
one.
situation
Mhm.
or a loss of a loved one.
Yes. All right. So grievers, right? So you've lost someone close to you and you're grieving. However that looks, which could be like a variety of things, right? So my first thing I have is communication.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Probably the biggest.
Yeah.
I would agree with you.
Okay. So when you talk about communication on the griever part, what do you mean by communication?
My thought was like sharing your feelings, your needs, like I need this, and your wants, but clearly don't beat around the bush, be direct, because your partner doesn't, or the person supporting you can't read your mind. So then if you're already with all these emotions, and so then if you're not being clear with them and then they frustrate you because they're not doing what you wanted, well, you didn't clearly
Communicate it.
right.
Okay.
Right. And so that causes more issues.
Yeah.
And if you kind of beat around the bush and not really, if they're asking you, what do you need or how are you feeling? And you're either shutting them out or just not communicating. Do you think that you experienced that?
Yeah, because I felt like he should just know without me having to tell him what I needed, because he was my like partner. So I'm like, I mean, you should know what I need. And sometimes, a lot of times that wasn't the case, you know,
Right.
and then I would be kind of like resentful
Yes.
without even communicating what my need was.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, how am I supposed to know that when you didn't even say that? I'm like,
Totally.
Right.
no.
Right. And we would talk about it, right?
Yeah.
We would talk about that. And then, of course, Crystal, I always tend to side with Patrick, and Crystal tends to side with Ron because we're similar. And so we kind of tend to understand that person. And so I would tell Crystal, like, you're assuming he knew what you needed instead of telling him.
And I would agree with that, because I'm pretty sure on a regular day-to-day basis, Pat can understand exactly what you need. But he's never been with you in a situation where somebody has passed away
That's true.
that was close to you. So it's totally different situation for the both of you. Same with me. Like, I've been through a whole bunch of scenarios with her, but never a scenario of somebody passing away that was close to her as her mom. So
Yeah.
it's a little difficult situation where I was even kind of lost on what I needed or didn't need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It was new to everyone. So we were just learning, trying to adapt as we went. And when we were talking about, when we knew we were coming on and we had been talking about it, and communication was like the first thing that we had said, that was our hardest part, because I couldn't read her mind because I just didn't know.
Right.
And then she wouldn't tell me. So then it was just like it was double bad. So it was hard.
Yeah, right.
Your wife did that to me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to have a
Frustrated.
meltdown before you actually communicate what
Yes.
you need.
We talked about
instead
that
of
as
asking
well.
for help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
because you think you can do it all. Like you think, you know, you can be like,
Handle it. I
yeah.
got this.
yeah. Mm.
No.
Yeah, but the bad thing is when you're a supporter and you're asking, like, what do you need for me to do? And the person that's grieving says like nothing, that puts the supporter in a bad position.
Yeah.
Because I know as a supporter, I need to be doing something. And I'm asking you what I need to be doing versus being like overwhelming. And it kind of puts me in a position where I'm doing nothing when I'm supposed to be doing something. And I know you need something, but I just don't know what that need is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
All right. Next one is choosing the right time to talk through grief. I feel like sometimes I was put in a corner and people like asked me questions at the wrong time, and I always question myself too. When I know someone just lost someone, as much as I want to give my condolences, sometimes I'm like, God, what if they're having a good day or a good moment and they're at least functioning? And then there I am. Oh, sorry about the passing of whoever. And then it just brings up all of these feelings again. And then they're back at a certain, emotion.
Right. But going through the situation that you guys went through, and I'll ask both of you this question: is there a right time or a wrong time to choose to talk about it?
I think it's just navigating. If you know the person that you're trying to support, at least in general, right? Just knowing their moods. And so if you see that they're a little like on edge, I guess is a good, that maybe that's not the time.
Right, but maybe you might be in a good mood, and then I ask, and then it's the same.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. So what would be the right or wrong time to?
How about if, hey,
it?
are you okay to talk right now? Are
Yeah.
you okay to share this?
Right, or I would just be more on the lines of keep it basic and let that person tell you what they want to tell you instead of prying for information.
So more like open the conversation, but yet let them guide it
and you can feel like how they're going to be. Now, if I get in there and say, well, how did that person pass away? Or how did this person do this? And what happened with this? And blah, blah, blah. Then it can be overwhelming versus, hey, if you need to talk about anything or, are you doing okay? Blah, blah, blah. Then let them guide the conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I wouldn't know when the right or the wrong time would be to even ask.
Do you guys have an opinion on that?
I feel like right away is better than waiting, because then sometimes it gets a little awkward after a while if you wait too long or
Right.
So, I mean,
that's true.
What do you think?
Yeah.
You're kind of like letting it sit stagnant and
then
right, because I can tell you, like I believe, and I might be wrong on this, correct me if I am wrong, that if somebody comes to you guys to this day and starts asking some serious questions about your mom, that will still trigger some things to bring up some emotion.
That's what I was going to say. It don't matter if it's 2 days, 2 years, 2 months,
right?
Like whatever happened, and depending on how they went to or how they passed, like all those details, that's where it can get very hard to talk about as well.
Yeah,
I would agree.
So I have to say, this weekend we went to go visit Ron's parents, and for some reason, me and Mr. Tribble always get into these deep conversations. And he did ask me about my mom and how was I coping, and he's like, if you don't want to talk about it, I understand, it's a heavy topic, blah blah blah. But I think he approached it the right way and said that, like, if you're not okay to talk about it, I understand. And I think that was a good, to where it didn't force me to if I wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
But then that made me more comfortable to discuss it. So yeah. All right, next one I have is don't downplay your feelings or suppress your feelings. Would you agree?
Yeah.
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 I mean, if you do, it's just not going to end up good. If you downplay them, they're going to come out eventually, regardless.
And in an explosion.
In a horrible way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And back to what I said is, if I ask you how you're feeling or how you're doing this, that, and the other, you don't tell me anything. You say you're fine.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden I'm not there for you. And then you have all these feelings that are built up and they all come out at one time. It might be negative towards me because I wasn't able to support you when you actually needed the support. Mm-hmm. So if you're feeling a certain way, I would say just let it out. Man, we all understand as adults, what individuals go through. You know what I mean? We might not be in that position, but if you're feeling a certain way, express yourself versus letting the other person try to figure out what you're thinking or how you're feeling.
Yeah. I think anytime they say fine, it's not fine.
No.
That's like,
yeah, for sure. If I hear that word come out, it is not fine at all. Yeah.
I think too, like, and this is just, I don't know if I've shared it with you or maybe one of you and not the others, but I know that it took me a while to feel like, yes, I would like have my moments of crying, but as far as like actually grieving, I feel like I kind of suppressed that for a while because while my mom was sick, I felt like I had to be strong for her and then my sister. And then after my mom passed, I felt like I had to be strong for my sister because she was kind of having a hard time with it. And so then I started going to therapy, and that's when I started like acknowledging and having all the feelings. And she was like, you need to grieve is basically what she kept telling me. You were holding all like most of your grief in. And she's like, that's not good. You know, you need to like grieve.
Right.
However that looks, you need to grieve.
Right. And I can understand that. But like when you're trying to be strong for everyone else and you haven't, like I said, had time to grieve. And that puts the other person in a situation because now I'm watching you. You know what I mean? Like when is it going to be your time for you to just break down and fall apart? You know what I mean? Because I know that even though individuals try to pretend like they're strong, sometimes they're not as strong as you.
Yeah, totally.
Think you are.
It's so crazy though, because I don't know if we've said it on our podcast, but my sister has always been that like non-emotional person, and I was always the very emotional person, too emotional probably. And the tables, you're right, and the tables like really turned. I feel like the turning point was when Mom got sick. I feel like my sister all of a sudden had like these feelings that I've never seen
like
her have
throwing up feelings. Throwing up feelings and emotions.
Yeah, it was very different, especially coming from someone who didn't show her feelings very much, and then me who was, and then now I think because in general, as we grew up, it was always me, my mom, and my sister. And I always say this, but I was kind of like the man of the house. I fixed the vacuum. I, did all of those type of things. And so again, I feel like I still took on that role of I need to be the strong one for these little ladies.
Yeah, but you got to understand that in this role, it had nothing to do with anyone being strong.
I know,
because you both lost someone equally. You know what I mean?
But that was my what is the word when you like? That's what you go towards. That's your instinct, like an instinct. Maybe that's not the word, but like that was my first instinct. Was to like protect, I guess.
Yeah, I get that part, but you just got to understand that when you're going through some things, your feelings are just as equal as Crystal's feelings. You know what I mean? You lost somebody that was really important to the both of you. So as far as being strong on either one of you's part wasn't your responsibility.
Right.
It was our responsibility as me and Pat and family members and everyone around us to help you guys stand in a
I
time
hear you, but I just felt like I naturally took that role.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
And then sometimes you don't know how to let people help you too. Like,
yep, that's my next point is to seek help, whether that's therapy, maybe a pastor or someone on your religious side, friends, family, even like support groups are always good. I personally sought out a therapist, and it's really helped me because I had so much feelings that I didn't even fully understand all the feelings. And so she was able to help me to understand them and then communicate what those feelings were. Because before I just knew I was feeling something, but I didn't know what. And then I certainly didn't know how to communicate that or tell somebody. And so therapy really just helped me to understand my feelings and then how to communicate them or connect them to other things.
That's what therapy is good for, because they give you those tools to use to try to figure it out on your own. They're not there to figure it out for you, but they're there to give you the tools to figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you, Pat, in this scenario, like let's say Crystal decided to go to therapy and she's getting the help that she was searching for. Would you feel some type of way as a supporter because she didn't come to you and ask you to listen to what she has to say? She went to someone else when all you wanted to throughout the whole time is for her to talk to you about what she was going through.
Man, that's pretty good right there. I would probably at first, I guess, maybe a little bit, right? Because as her husband or spouse, I would want to be able to be that person to help her, right? To be able to be the one to talk to and this and that. And I wish that, but I would just want her to be well though. And right. So if it was her to seek a therapist or something, I believe in therapy. I think it's those are good things. So I wouldn't have a problem with that thing, but I would hope she would come to me first and try to talk to me, or at least explain her feelings to me and her reasoning behind wanting to go to therapy and stuff.
Right.
For sure. Rather than just saying, I'm going to therapy, like.
Especially if you're asking her questions like, hey, how do you feel? How about this, that, and the other? And then she tells you nothing. Then all of a sudden she's going to therapy.
Yeah, exactly. On Tuesday or something, like all of a sudden, yeah.
So Ron did ask me, like, well, why don't you talk to me? And I told him, like, it wasn't necessarily that I wasn't wanting to talk to you. Again, I didn't know how to communicate what I was feeling, right? So if I can't tell you how I'm feeling, that's kind of pointless. So a lot of times, tell me if I'm wrong, I would come after therapy and be able to talk to him, right? Because she was just able to make me see things differently of, like, I guess, confirmation of what I was feeling. Like, yes, that's what I was feeling. Or yes, that's, this or that. So then I would come often and kind of still like talk to him, but she helped me to like put the words together, I guess.
I just think it's a different scenario when you're talking a close family member, husband, wife, or whatever, and you're trying to express yourself. You feel like I've said this 100 times. And you still don't get it from me because I don't want something in return. I just want you to listen to help me get to a certain point. I feel as though in this case, when you went to a therapist or whatever, you were more comfortable in expressing yourself to that person than you were comfortable with me. And I don't have a problem with it as long as you get the necessary help, like Pat said, that you need. If you feel comfortable with talking to somebody else about what you're going through and they can provide a sense of comfort to you that I can't provide, then so be it.
I think too, it helped originally get it out with someone who's like non-biased is because you're close to me. We're so different in the way that we think and do. Yeah, and so I think that my fear was that maybe I was trying to communicate and I would have maybe done it wrong or like hurt your feelings or
no, because bias as far as my favorite football team is different than bias as far as you losing a loved one. My job is just to listen to you. My job is not to, because we're not trying to find the right and the wrongs of things. You know what I mean? So
I think though, especially when you're taking care of someone who's sick, not even past yet, but taking care of someone sick, you go through all these like feelings that you don't know if other people, if other people have those same feelings, like whether it's resentment or even some people could hate that person because of this or that, or
guilt
like, there's just all these like feelings attached to it.
Right, but as a supporter, we want to listen to all of those feelings.
I hear
because when you're going through some things, what your significant other wants to do is, if a scenario comes to the forefront in the future, we will know how to be there. Like if you keep your feelings to yourself and you don't talk to your significant other or whoever is supporting you at the time, in the future, you might say, well, they weren't there for me because maybe they don't know how to be there.
Right. Yeah. And I agree with you there. I'm just saying from my experience, I just felt like it was easier to talk to a stranger, not a stranger, but someone who didn't have prior knowledge of me or the situation, because maybe there was times that you and I talked about something and maybe one of us misconstrued something or we took it a different way, or there's so many things because of our history or the way that we are and our closeness that I had a fear of almost like communicating wrongly to you. Whereas the therapist doesn't have, right? Her feelings aren't going to get hurt because she's not involved. Most likely if I feel like maybe you didn't support me at this time, she had nothing to do with it. But if I tell you, maybe I'm not going to communicate it well. And that was my fear.
Oh, yeah. Because we'll go back and forth. If you say, well, I wasn't there for you at this time, then I'm going to go back at you and say, well, you didn't allow me to do this, that, and the other. Right. And I can see it going back and forth. So like I said, I had no issues with you talking to a therapist, even to this day, if that's what makes you feel better and you can, convey however you're feeling to that individual, then cool. But what I would say though is after you talk to your therapist and you figure out some things about you, let your significant other in on exactly what the positive outcome.
Which I do.
is.
Like I said, I feel more comfortable talking to you because she's helped me navigate it and put the feelings or things that I'm feeling or thinking into words, and then that helps me communicate it to you.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So Emma says, I agree. Talk to someone else more open, or you don't know that person, so easier to express. Yes.
Sometimes it is. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Next one. Don't try to understand grief or restrict yourself on how you think you should grieve. That was my issue. I don't know, sister, if you had that same problem. Is in my head, I had this idea of what grief looked like, right? And I told my therapist, like, I just have this guilt because I'm not like, initially I haven't cried a lot. And and then she made me realize there was a few things as to why that I was kind of like suppressing it. And so that like helped me to understand that there's no one way to grieve. Everyone grieves, and there's stages of grieving, right? There's like anger and sadness and like there's just so many different things. Would you agree on any of that?
Yeah. There are, and it comes at different times. You know, when you least expect it, especially. But
yeah.
It'll just be like at the beginning or the first like month or like a year or No.
Yeah, you have that definition of grief that's out there dictionary wise, but when it comes to grieving, people's going to grieve in their own special way. Some people don't, like they can grieve silently, and that's just the way that they handle things. You know what I mean? They don't have to be crying, or they don't have to be, all hysterical. Some people just not like that.
I think that was my thing, especially because initially I didn't cry as much, but there was certain reasons, right? Or I was trying to be the strong one, or every time that I thought of my mom, I would cry and I would stop it. It was just like I was preventing myself from grieving, like just letting it out and crying. And so in my mind, I've seen people grieve and they're just like so distraught and like in what's the where you can't soothe them? What is it? You can't console them, right? Whereas me, because we saw my mom decline, and through her decline, it just got worse and worse, that it was almost a relief that she was gone, because I hated that she was going through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, that's the difference when you talk about your mom and where she was and then how she ended up in the whole process of it was a little difficult. You guys have, I think in a lot of cases, have been grieving through the whole process of, what she was going through. So each appointment, each day was a different type of grief while she was even living. So then after she passed, it just all kind of caught up with you guys at one time.
Well, not even that. During those 2 years, she had like declines. So then I think she had maybe about 3 declines, where one time they were like, she only has a few months left, or no, this is it. She's, and so me and my sister probably grieved her 3 times during all these.
Every time we got bad news,
she perks up again, or and it's like, gosh, I already kind of went through those emotions, and then here we are again on an uphill, and then she declines again, and so you're going through this roller coaster of emotions. Yvonne says, after losing my son, I went through all stages of grieving. I grieved silently and was there for everyone else. I put my grief aside, and it made it worse.
Yeah, you can't postpone your grief. You know what I mean? I think that would make it worse if you hold on to all these emotions and you make sure everyone else is okay, because there's going to be that one day. No matter if you're driving to work, you're at the house, you're just gonna lose it. Yeah. And don't be afraid. A lot of people are afraid to show the emotions of grief. you can't be afraid. People understand, especially the ones that are around you that are important. They understand that you're going to be grieving. So just let it be. You know
I know
what I mean?
it's just sometimes hard. Like not that long ago, maybe like 3 weeks ago, I kind of had a breakdown at work. I don't know if it was something reminded me of my mom or maybe a song came on. I don't quite remember, but I just started crying and I'm here at my desk, right? And the door is like diagonal. So anyone walking one way could like see, and they would have seen me crying. And again, right away, I'm trying to like gather myself because I didn't want anyone to see me or like make it awkward. Like, why are you crying? You know?
But it doesn't matter if they asked you why you're crying, you just let them know why you're crying, and then either they'll know how to be there for you to support you, or they'll just leave you alone.
I know, but then if I'm in the midst of the feeling and then someone else, I could be like that
worse
hard cry, and you're like,
don't do that.
And I'm not, some of my coworkers, I'm not like that, where they see my like.
Don't go in there. Don't go in there.
You're Kim Kardashian.
I know, right? That's exactly what one of them would say. Like,
yeah.
You don't want to go in Angela's office today.
Abort.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as like a griever, that's all I had in general for the list. Is there anything, Crystal, that you can maybe add on as far as you having that experience as a griever that maybe we didn't cover?
Say that again. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Just everything that we covered. I went through my list of what I had as far as your topics. Is there anything that you feel I missed that maybe you can add to?
No, I do feel like communication was probably like the biggest like point, because number one, we both weren't great communicators to begin with, and then then when you're not a emotional person, and then you're trying to like express your feelings and
what you need.
It makes it difficult. So you go through a lot of hard stages, but I think overall, right, it just like kind of with everything that's hard, it makes you stronger and brings you on the other side of things. After going through like such
I agree. Yvonne says, I would hear, he's been gone, he's not coming back. Why are you acting like that? What a trigger. I agree. Like, so they were basically putting their expectation of how to grieve on you.
Yeah, because if you think about it, a lot of people that probably have not lost anyone that's close to them, they have the picture that grieving starts when the person passes away, and it should be like at that moment, and then that's it. You know what I mean?
That's your child. That's different too.
Yeah. Like I said, it just depends on how that person passes away, how close that person was to you, and the whole nine. You could be grieving for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not just for the day of the burial and things of that nature. That carries on throughout.
I think grief is different too, because again, our mom had months of a decline, right? So we saw the decline and we had time to like get through all those feelings. Whereas if you lose someone suddenly, whether it's an accident or a death or maybe just natural causes, but it was unexpected.
But then again, you didn't have time to get through the feelings. You have feelings compiled on top of feelings. Like every day there was something different to add on to the feelings from the previous day.
That's true, but I feel like we at least could sit with those feelings rather than someone who lost someone right away or unexpectedly. You don't. Right? It's just all of a sudden this hits you.
Yeah.
Yvonne says, yes, exactly. You all nailed it. Yeah. All right. So next one is now the supporters. What does that look like?
Difficult.
Yeah.
Hard as shit, huh?
It was just difficult because when you are supporting someone, there's no blue book to support. And sometimes the type of support that you think that you can provide is probably not the type of support that that person needs.
Far from it.
You're right. Communication on both parts, but when it comes to the supporter, it has to be kind of a clear-cut situation on how do you need me to support you.
Yes, but I also, so let's start on my list. So the first one I have for a supporter is to listen,
Okay.
right? Just listen to how they're feeling, what they are trying to communicate, and maybe not even, I'm not saying try to guess or read the between the lines, but maybe if they're trying to tell you something, maybe you could just clarify and maybe that'll help them communicate it better. Like, I'm understanding that this is what you want. Do I have that correct? Because I want to make sure to support you how I can.
Right. But that support and listening has to pertain to the situation at hand.
Totally.
You know what I mean? If I'm asking you questions, I'm listening to what you have to say, or I'm just listening to you in general, but I have questions because what you're going through, I don't understand.
Right. You've never been through it
No.
yourself.
No.
Yeah.
That's the
So
hardest part.
how do you feel, Pat, like with the whole listening? Was there times where you also were like, I'm hearing her, but I'm not quite understanding her?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Like I'm hearing everything and I don't know what the heck to do, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you're just there and you're just listening. I mean, that's basically what you are, is you're a listener. And then you're like, so you okay? Or
Right. Because then when
What do
you
you
listen,
know?
a guys in general, when you listen to something and they're telling you something, you want to chime in. You want to either be the savior. You want to,
got this.
make people comfortable and whatnot. Just listening for a guy is sometimes difficult.
Yeah.
Without chiming in on something.
Correct.
And it's always going to be positive, and it might seem a little fake at times, but when you're trying to say things positive to keep the mood in a positive manner, sometimes that's probably not the best thing to do. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next one is be patient and understanding.
Understanding is, patient and understanding is, because you're trying to figure out everything with nothing, at the same time. You trying to be patient. We don't even know we being patient and understanding about, but we got to be patient and understanding in the same conversation. It's a little difficult sometimes.
Is there a time that maybe you felt like frustrated because maybe we weren't communicating? You're like, I just want you to tell me what you need from me so I can help you.
I don't know. I just know that there was a lot of moving parts. The car is driving, but sometimes I didn't know who was driving the car. You see what I'm saying? I'm in the back seat and we moving, but I don't know who's driving. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is supposed to be happening and this is supposed to be happening. I don't really want you to do it, but who is doing it? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then I just had to, I don't want to take the lead on it because I don't want to step on toes.
Right.
I don't want to take the lead on it because if I bring up something, I don't know if you already got it and it makes it seem like you don't have it, you know what I mean? Or I'm questioning you. So it was a little confusing at times. So I can understand try to be patient, but it's a little difficult.
Yeah. It's hard too because a lot of the stuff that they needed, we couldn't do for them or we couldn't help them with.
That's true. Crystal, do you want to kind of chime in on that? Like what he means by that?
I mean, just because she's a woman, right? So like say going to the bathroom, getting her changed at the end, changing her, just
helping her shower,
all the things that you have to do. And so the things that he maybe so he had to help out with other things because he couldn't help out with those things specifically. So then that's when we had to navigate, okay, well, what things can he help me with when we know that he can't help with?
Right. Scoot over a little bit, Crystal.
So then it would be like, maybe can you help with like laundry, or you have to like do the grocery shopping now, or you have to make dinners or.
So did you clarify that? Like this is how you can help me.
Well, not initially, of course.
Yeah.
And it's kind of difficult because some of the things that
I was trying to do it all, right? So I was trying to work, be a mom, be a wife, be a daughter, be a sister, be like you know, just all the
Right.
things.
And you guys were busy, and some of the things that we would have loved to do that we couldn't do, we couldn't understand. Like, your day is busy. We understand your day is busy, and our days was kind of busy as well, but we couldn't understand because of the fact that we didn't have to go through a lot of things
exactly, all the day to day.
Right, that you had to do. So we just got in where we kind of fit in,
Right.
but we didn't have the pressure of having to watch your mom or take care of her, this, that, and the other. And a lot of other stuff that needed to be done as far as food and all that other type of stuff was kind of helped out by your supporting cast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me see where we're at. Okay, so next one is to give them space.
That's difficult.
Right? Sometimes they just don't want to talk about it, or they need to get through this like feeling of maybe anger or whatever. Sometimes it's like just being there, but not prying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but sometimes it's difficult, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, if you try to give someone space and you know that your partner is going through some things, it kind of seems like
you don't care.
You don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not being there for them because I'm just giving them a space. I'm not asking them questions. I'm not, really talking to them much. I'm just letting them have their space. But then sometimes it just seems like you ain't there.
But is that where the communication comes in?
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Yes, that's where that community. Like I'm letting you know I am here.
Yes.
If you
need me,
want to talk, or if you want to go out, or if you want to just want me just to listen or whatever, I am here.
Right.
But I'm not going to keep like pressuring you to.
But also on the other end, right? If you're like, I'm having a really bad day and I can't talk right now and I just don't feel like talking, type thing.
Yeah.
And so then communicating to them to let them know, like,
just give me some space.
I'm telling you I need space, so then you don't question if I give them space, are they going to get mad because they think right? But if they're communicating that I need space.
Yeah, but do you really need space though?
Sometimes it's just that I don't want to talk. Like I'm always talking about whether it's the sickness or the death, right? And sometimes you just want someone to be a warm body, but I just don't want to talk about it right now. I just need to clear.
Right. However, when it comes down to that, you don't have to talk about the situation, but at least talk to your significant other. So then we have a feeling that you're okay, and then you are going to talk to us whenever you feel
ready.
The need to be.
Yeah.
But if I just give you space, I don't want it to bite me in the butt in the long run, saying, well, you weren't there for me when I needed you to be, and you were all quiet and you didn't comfort me when I needed the comfort.
So, but if I told you, hey, I'm really just struggling today or right now, when I'm ready, I'll come talk to you.
Right. If you said that, then cool. But if you say, I'm really struggling, I'm going to be like, me as a person, like, what are you struggling about? And then I want to talk about it like right there. Yeah. So I might make it worse because I know there's something going on. Let me know.
That's kind of the way I am, huh?
Yeah.
I'm like, what's wrong? As soon as I know something's wrong.
Go figure.
Yeah, like let's talk about this right now.
Tell me what's wrong.
Yeah. And sometimes I want to kind of figure out my emotions first, and then I can communicate, but I have to first figure them out, because if not, I don't want them to come out wrong, right?
Right.
Okay, Thea Diana says, good communication always helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yvonne says, I'll share something with you all. After losing my son, he was only 16.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I lost myself, hit rock bottom, tried to commit suicide, pulled the trigger, my firearm jammed.
Oh.
Cried out. I needed help and guidance. Went to the hospital only to find out I was pregnant.
Oh.
I had a dream a few days later after that attempt. My son came to me in my dream and gave me a yellow flower and told me it was okay. He was okay and his brothers needed me. Brothers, gender reveal month later. Did it cut you off, Yvonne?
Yeah, because I don't think you came up here.
Yeah. Let's
Man,
see.
you went through a lot in that short period of time. I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, here we are. I'm still on a journey. I forgave the child that killed my son, and he now has a son. I told him, please stop the cycle of violence and trauma and be a better you. Be a good father and protect your children.
Yes.
Forgiveness is powerful.
That's so sad.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, that's a serious situation right there. Not only did you lose your son, and I can understand a lot of individuals do hit rock bottom when they lose a significant loved one in their lives. But the positive thing is everything in my mind happens for a reason, and there was a reason why that gun jammed to make you the person that you are to this day. So just see that as a blessing, and you continue on telling your story, especially like to us, to other people. So then now they know that they can seek help, and there's some positivity at the end of that thunderstorm.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Next one I have is encourage talking of the deceased. That can be a hard one, but like bringing up good memories.
Yeah.
Right.
I like to do it. I don't know if it makes people uncomfortable or not, but I don't really care. But I like to just talk about her in everyday life.
Totally. Because to us, like her daily was the daily that she did was fun, right?
Yeah, that's how we joke. We still picture her over there sitting on the edge of the couch over there, doing like this with her hands. So cold.
Yes. Yes. Or Ron he'll literally go to the fridge and hold the fridge up and be like, "This was your mama holding the fridge doors open for like 5 minutes." Yeah.
Or the story, like I was telling you, Crystal, like the other day, is when your mom, I cut your mom's fingernails and I cut her and she was holding that. So the positive things is good when you talk to positive things, but it's kind of a slippery slope when you start bringing up things, because all those positive things that you start bringing up, as far as the encouragement of talking about somebody that has been deceased, can also trigger some.
I think sometimes it's timing too, right?
Yeah.
It could be timing.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to like bring it up, even if you just okay, maybe now's not the time, but let's talk about the joyous times.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
and then the good memories.
Well, that's why I just want to keep her memory alive, or like keep her with like, I wear like things of hers every day.
Yes.
Or, like,
me too. Yeah, because they make you remember her, right? Yeah. Whenever I wear like something of hers, I agree. Or even if I have, granted, I can't fit into her little shirts, but anytime I like open my drawer and I have her little like, shirts in my drawer, like it just, I remember it was the one she wore to Ron's 70s party.
Oh, yeah.
The little
one. Oh, yeah.
That's
so I do get to wear her shirts, and I do have a few.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing, like if I was at work or something, and be like, "Oh, that's a nice shirt," and I'm like, "Oh, thanks, it was my mom's."
My mom's, yeah. I agree. All right, next one is validate their feelings.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning, even if they are going batshit crazy, right? Like, I feel you, and you have every right to feel this way. Or I can understand your grief or your anger. Like, just validate them, because sometimes they question themselves.
You say, you have every right to feel that way.
Yes.
But if you talk to me like that again, I'm gonna choke you. I'm gonna kick you. I agree. Sometimes, and I don't know if validate is the right word, a person's feelings, but at least acknowledge how they feel. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, like in this situation, you guys lost someone that was really close to you. I've never been in that situation before. So I can understand if I did lose someone, how you may feel, but I can't understand how you feel in that moment, because I have not been through that situation before. So I can understand supporting your feelings, and if this is how you feel about something, I am there to listen to how you feel, and I will acknowledge your feelings. But for me to say, yeah, I understand what you're going through, I can't understand what you're going through because I have never lost anyone that was close to me like that.
Yeah. I guess when I say validate is to like make that, like, let them know that you're not crazy for feeling sad still, or you're not crazy for having a breakdown, like just to that type of validation.
Or don't say anything. Just let them grieve in the way that they want to grieve, and then you support them no matter what feelings that they're going through. Just support them as is.
Thea Diana says, you all have been wonderful daughters and sons. She was also a wonderful mother and aunt. I agree, Auntie. I totally agree. All right, next one is keep them occupied.
Which is hard.
Very hard. Sometimes necessary, because then they could become depressed and like get into this like dark space.
Right. Or if you keep them occupied, sometimes going back to something that you said previously, they might prolong their grieving stage. They're too occupied doing other things, and then they really haven't had the time to properly grieve, and then it'll catch up to them.
Hopefully there's balance of let me feel the feels, but also realize that there's life goes on, right? Unfortunately, I used to hate that. I used to hate that saying. Life goes on, but it's true.
Everyone else. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, when you do lose someone, life still has to go on. Like Yvonne, she still had other children she had to live for, right? And she had a newborn. Her life still had to go on, and she still had to be a mother to her other children. And so, that's hard to think. And I used to hate that, but it's true. Like, yes, my mom passed, and the way she passed was awful, and I hate life without her, but I still also have a family, and I know that my mom would want me to live life, right? That my life didn't stop because hers stopped.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we just have to like remember that.
Yeah.
All right, last one I have is offer specific help. Don't ask, just do. What I mean by that is sometimes we're going through so much that by you saying, what can I help you with? Instead of if you see the dishes need to be done, or I was busy with my mom, so hey, I started dinner, or, those like step up because I'm a mess.
Right. But I would see that on the griever side too, because you don't want as a supporter to make that person feel like they're useless. Just because something somebody had passed away or whatever. I don't want to feel like you're not capable of doing anything just because of this, that, and
I can understand that perspective, but I'm telling you, when you're in it, and I'm not saying if you did, because Ron stepped up a lot because I was over at my sister's a lot. So Ron, was here holding down this fort because I was at someone else's fort. And so I would come home and the house would be cleaned, or I knew Marley was fed and walked. And even though if it was on my day, because we take turns walking the dog, like he didn't wait for me to come home and still have to do those things.
Yeah, and that's mainly because of what you were doing at your sister's house.
Right.
I couldn't do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm saying.
That's where you step up in those other
call me and say, hey, what do you want me to do? Even by you saying, hey, do you want me to walk Marley? That's already too much for me. I'm glad you just did it.
Yeah, you got other stuff to worry about than walking a dog. So yeah, I get that part.
I will say that's the other thing that I have learned now, like going through that with anybody else that loses something, because you know how people are always like, oh, let me know if there's anything that I can do. You're never gonna, I personally would never reach out to somebody and be like, hey,
I need this.
Can you? I personally would never do that. And so I found it very, very helpful. And I was very appreciative to those people that just did things without me having to even ask. So that is the one thing that I have learned now, is I don't be like, oh, let me know if there's I just kind of try to do something.
Right. And there's a big difference too with you guys' family and your supporting cast. You guys had a lot of people that were involved in helping out, no matter if it's buying or preparing food or meals or stopping by for a prayer or this, that, and the other, you got to take into consideration sometimes that there's some people that don't have anyone. You know what I mean? So you guys are very blessed to have a big family that came through and supported you guys when there's a lot of families that don't have that support.
I agree. I have a coworker and his mom wasn't doing good and he was her only child. And so she was to the point with like mom, right? And he goes, it's so hard because she's a woman, right? And so I was like, Justin, you call me and I will come. Like, I'll be there because I totally get it. You live by me. If you even just need a few hours away, I said, I'll come, I'll show up. Like, just granted, with family, you could just show up and clean their house, right? But I don't know him at that level. But just to have someone that, again, maybe someone of the opposite sex that could help, that's a little open. And I just gave him a lot of resources because we had gone through it. And so I was able to like give him those type of resources. He didn't ask me. I just was like, hey, here's some information or here's this. And he seemed so grateful for it. I didn't wait for him to ask because he knew that I had went through it. But I was just like, hey, if you need this, here's this number. This is a great, resource or whatever the case may be. So I did want to talk real quick because I remember, I don't know if it was the guys when they were going to their annual Vegas trip. And I remember Patrick kind of he seemed like his feelings got hurt because his wife seemed like she was glad for him to leave for Vegas.
Okay.
And
I don't know if that's possible or not, but
well, I'm just saying.
I just said that like this week.
Really?
Like, yeah.
She's like, I'm looking forward to you going too.
Yeah. Well, I just remember at that time, Pat kind of made a comment to me that my wife's like excited for me to go. And I said, I don't think it's necessarily she doesn't want you here, but we're going through so much that as wives, we also felt like we were neglecting you guys.
We were.
I know. Yeah, we talked about it since too. Yeah, for sure.
We did.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. She was happy because
it was like one less thing
off
on her plate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And me being here at this house, this fort, it was, granted I worked a lot too, so was out a lot as well, but being my house and stuff as well, it was just a little harder too. So she was happy that I could get out and have a little fun and stuff like that.
That's true, because I know you had a really rough week the week that my mom passed, but I just wanted to bring that up because I remember you kind of being like, she's ready for me to leave.
She had never been like that before. So.
Yes, I remember. Because she hated that you were going, right? But that year she was like, go.
I like to give him a hard time.
Is it really? Is that what it is? That's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
She really wants you to have fun, Pat. She just likes to give you a hard time.
I know. You heard it. Hey, can we hear? It's recorded, right? And stuff,
right?
Yes.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. This was like something we've had on the docket for a little bit.
Right. So lesson learned from me being in this situation is a couple of things. And Pat, you can jump on this as a supporter if need be. But for one, communication is the key. When a person is on the opposite end and they're trying to help as far as the supporting cast, sometimes we need to know exactly what kind of support you need. Yeah. We can't figure it out in situations that have changed. Like I said earlier, on a day-to-day basis, if you're going through some things, a man or your significant other will know how to be there for you because they know what triggers you, they know what helped the situation out. But when it comes to something as far as losing someone, it might be a little difficult because we have not been through that situation with you or your significant other in the past, so we don't know how to handle that situation. So one thing the things that I learned is, just to step back just a little bit and just watch, and then from time to time, just ask if there's anything that I need to be doing or you want me to do not to correct the situation, but to ease the situation, no matter if it's an ear, just to listen, or something that you need me to go do physically.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I had no clue when this first kicked off or whatever, and it got progressively worse. I had no clue on what I needed to do and how I needed to do it.
We didn't either.
Yeah. I know everyone's just learning at the same time, really. But I agree with you, bro. Communication was key. And then just sometimes it was almost better just to be quiet and just observe and then watch. And then, because it went on for so long, after you could start seeing where you could fill in at or what things you could do to make things better. That's kind of like what worked for me. It wasn't always just for me to say the right things or for me just to to have a conversation with or something. It was more just to watch and kind of just lend a hand at the right moment and when I needed to, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And another thing I would say to the grievers, and when it comes to somebody supporting you, you guys got to understand that just because we're in the supporting cast doesn't mean that we ain't going through some things too. You know what I mean? We were around your mom just as much. Yeah. So at times, if you're grieving, ask all the parties involved, like, how are you guys doing? I had told her one time, like, we had went through the whole situation, and not one person had asked me, like, how am I doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how am I doing through this whole process? Even though she was not my mom, per birth.
Yeah.
We went through it. We've been through a lot of stuff together. You know what I mean? So that doesn't mean that my feelings were not as strong as they were, when as you guys. Yeah. So not that I really needed it, but I'm just saying, we go through some things too. Yeah. We have to support. We have to maintain, keep up with the household and all the other type of stuff that you guys are unable to do. We have to step up and feel that.
I think just asking makes a big difference.
Yeah, just ask, like, is there anything that you need, or how are you guys doing, and this, that, and the other. Whoever's supporting you, just reach out and ask those individuals, because we have feelings too, or those supporters have feelings as well.
We all do.
Yeah.
Good job.
I knew your mom before I even knew any of you.
I know. Right. Oh yeah, that's so true.
I knew her before I met any of you guys. So yeah,
I
forgot about that, but you're 100% correct.
Yeah. So when you look at it and you talk about feelings wise and on a day to day, if she was or anybody is in your family is a day to day for someone, just because they're not blood relatives don't mean that they don't have the same feelings as you do about that 100%. Friends or family, regardless. Ask those people how they're doing and how they're feeling, especially if they're at ground zero, reaching out and being there to support.
Elma says everyone grieves in different ways or goes through it differently. Totally agree.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's our podcast for today. The Bairds, we thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, babe, for being here.
I say thank every single one of you guys, no matter if it's Pat, Crystal, or yourself. We went through this as a collective soul.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's every single day amongst family. We had something to challenge either our relationships or our families and whatnot, and we made it through this difficult situation and whatnot.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine if one of us was not on the same page and how it would actually be. So I really appreciate the communication that we did have, how we talked to each other, how we made us each other. Yeah. And even like with you, Pat, we would talk on the side or whatever, and you guys would communicate and so forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just really appreciate that, because without that supporting cast, I don't know if I was an outsider or did not communicate with you guys, how it would have actually turned out. So I really appreciate the support from you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. We will not be on next Thursday because why?
It's Football Thursday next Thursday.
And where will you be?
I'll be here at the house.
Yeah. Chilling.
Oh, okay.
Getting ready for Vegas next week.
So we will not have our podcast next week because the guys are going to Vegas. So blame them because you're missing your favorite day of the week because you won't have chatter of opinion. But
yes,
he'll have to make it up to y'all
Yeah, the week after we will be on. Thank you, Barrett, for this difficult topic, and we really appreciate you being a guest to the show.
Yeah, it's cool.
For everyone else that chimed in and let
Yes,
us know
thank
your
you for
situation,
sharing.
Yvonne especially, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing what you had went through with your son. It's sad that you did lose your son and whatnot, but we really do appreciate the knowledge of you expressing yourself to us during our podcast. For everyone else, as football started this today, Thursday, Chiefs are on right now. I think it's 7-7.
Is it?
Be careful this weekend if you're partaking any alcoholic beverages, and we will see you guys next
2 weeks.
2 weeks from now.
Have a good one.
I'll let you go.